Hey there friends, well in this video we're going to be discussing and I'm going to be showing you how to read data from Firebase and then take that data and show it inside of your app. So in this series we're creating an app called Firebase, which is a website password manager. So far we've added a login screen where you can log into the app. We have a page to display all the websites that you've displayed passwords for. And then we have another page where you can actually add or manage or delete these passwords. And in the last video, I showed you how to enter in information here and then save that data. And what we want to do today is actually read that data from Firebase and put it inside of our app. So looking at Firebase, you can see here we have a folder called passwords. Under that, we have these characters that are our user IDs returned through our sign-in component. Under that, we have our websites for this user. So the websites this user are stored. And then for each website, we have a username and a password. So the first step to this is I want to get all of the websites that the current logged in user has saved inside of the real-time database. So I want to grab all of the websites for them and display it in a list on our kind of main screen. So it's blank right now, but there's actually a list viewer component in there, and I'll show that to you here. So you can see here's a list websites. This is a list viewer. And so from a blocks perspective, we want to grab the list of websites and then allow them to select one from the list and then go to the next screen with that selection. So there's two variables that we'll need for that. And the first is our list, and then the second is our selected one. So let me go ahead and create those. All right, so from our blocks, we've created a variable to store all the websites that are returned, and then we've also created a variable to store the selected website that they want to view. And then whenever the screen starts, we want to clear out whatever was previously there so that we can redo our search. So now we have kind of a foundation, and now we want to pull the data from the real-time database. And so we can do that by going to our database and selecting the get method here. And we'll do this whenever the screen starts. Now, where do we want to grab data from? So if you can think about it, a user has logged in, they come to this screen, they want to see all of the websites for what they have stored. So we want to grab everything within this user's ID, so everything below here. So we need to drill down one level. So we'll have let's do three items here. So the first one will be our top level folder, passwords. I think I misspelled that a while ago too. Passwords, we have slash, and then we want the user ID. That's our next folder. So this is where we're getting data from, and you can see this is the only input that it's going to take, where we want to grab that data from, the key, and then it's going to return either an error or a value. So let's account for the error. All right, so if there is not an error, we will do something. If there is an error, we will update our warning message. So set the message to our error, and then we can show it. I have a function for this on some of the other screens, but we'll keep it plain for now. What this returns is this value right here. Now, I had some trouble interpreting this value because I wanted it to return a list, but it wasn't giving me exactly what I wanted, specifically because these keys, I actually want these texts. So in the list viewer, I want to show the list of Facebook and Google. So I ended up doing something a little tricky. which is actually taking this value and turning it into text, turning the object into JSON, and then parsing out the text. So let me show you what this looks like if we just turn it into JSON. So we log in for darrentest.com. And then yeah, here you can see this is actually what the object looks like. So you can see we have Facebook and then our password and user for that, and then Google and then our password and user for that. So what I'm going to do is I've actually already created a method. I'll show you it here, or a function. And what I do is I take off the kind of the first character of that little curly brace and last one, and then I'll make this into a list separated by what is separating the two, separating right before Google. So you can see right before Google we have that curly brace and a comma. So I create a list out of that, and then I get rid of all the text before the front of the key and the text afterwards. So I'm not going to walk through actually creating this, but it does exactly what I said. It takes the JSON from our response. So this is what is input into the function, turns that into JSON. It gets rid of the first and the last character, and then it makes a list based on this delimiter, that curly brace and a comma. So now we have a list, and then we just want to clean up each of those items. So we do a for loop that loops through that list, and then we clean up the text. So we get rid of the first few characters, and then we get rid of everything after the colon, the curly brace. So if you want to copy this, you go right ahead. But really what is better is for you to actually kind of see what you want and then act on that. Now this is all kind of very, very advanced stuff. So if you don't need to do this, you know, more power to you. But what I'm going to do is Dom Hall from the Thunkable team has written a few different articles, some of them older, some of them newer, on the Thunkable community. And I'm going to link to those down in the description. They cover a lot of like how to search a JSON object, how to kind of parse it out, how to read all of this data. So I think those will be a lot better resource than me trying to go through and explain this. Let's just see how this function works based off what we just saw. So right here, instead of updating that label, now all I need to do is actually just call my function and display that in our list. So our list websites, we'll set our text items to what is returned from this function. And what do we need to input in this function? The value that's returned from Firebase. So once this thing does its magic, we should have a list of all the websites from Firebase. All right, so here I am. Let's go ahead and log in. And awesome, so we can see now I have a list. So I have Facebook and I have Google. Let's log in with my other user and make sure that that one's working too. So I have one for darren@chest.com. These are fake. Awesome. So here you see I have a website called Website Edition, Apple, MSN, Thunkable. So awesome. Exactly what we want. So we've read some data from Firebase. We've formatted it the way we want to. We're displaying it on the screen. And now I want to be able to select one of those from the list viewer and then go to the next screen with that selection. So to select something from a list viewer, we go to our list and then we grab the blocked list item, click, and then we want to store the item that's clicked in our variable that we created just a second ago called site selected. So we'll store the item, the actual text, and then we're going to go to the next screen. So I have a few blocks here that were created in previous videos. So if you're interested, go and check out the videos earlier in this series. But now that we are on this screen and we've selected a site, we want to go back into Firebase and get the actual data that's in that folder, that site that we selected. So when we want to get something, we need to use the get method. So we go to the real-time database and we grab our get method. And we want to do this whenever the screen starts. For the get method, all we need to do is tell it where we want to get that data from. So we created this save method in the last one, and we're going to use something very similar to our key from there. So I'm going to go and duplicate that and copy it over. Oh, I do not want to trash that. Good catch, Darren. Good catch. All right, so we go to the top level of password. We go down a level to the user's ID. This is whoever's using the app. We go down another level, and instead of grabbing the text from the screen, we want to populate this with the site that was just selected. So we'll call that variable here. And then looking back at Firebase, you can see, so we have our passwords folder, the user ID, and then if this user selects Google, we will get a value of this user password object. So our value is an object. And so whenever we want to get something from an object, we have to come get property. And then we have two properties in here. One is called user, and then the other is called name. Not name. I did this so many times when I was making this app. I kept on wanting to call it name. I guess it's because it's username and yeah, username. Yeah, okay, I understand. Anyways, our properties are user and pass. And so now that we've gotten this data, we actually just want to display it on the screen. And so what we can do here is we just want to update each of our inputs that are on the screen. So we'll do input site first. And we already know this. This is what they selected on the previous screen. And then we have two more inputs that we want to update. And when I say update, we're just populating the input with the text that they entered earlier. So we'll get rid of this and get rid of this. And then we'll plug in our user to input user. And then we'll plug in pass to input pass. So let's go ahead and take a look and see if this is working. All right, so we'll log in with this user. We then get a new list from Firebase. Let's go ahead and select Apple. And then awesome, so we see site Apple, username banana, and password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And so it's actually calling that data from Firebase based off our selection. Let's select another one. Let's do addition. So you can see here, it's populating those on the screen. Now, one thing we need to account for, again, you need to test your apps, and this is something I found in testing, was when we go to the add, so instead of selecting one from the list, let's add a new one. You'll see here it says null, undefined, undefined. And this is because the screen is starting and it's trying to get data from Firebase, but there's nothing in that path for it to get. So what we need to do is account for this on our call. So if we look back at the screen, two things I would say is, first off, we always want to account for the error. So let's go ahead and add that in. We'll do what we've done on a lot of the other screens. Let me actually put this here. We'll say if not error, then we'll do what we had before. If there is an error, we will use our fancy function to show the error to the user. Then the other thing that we want to do is we only want to do this if they've actually selected something. So if they're coming through the save button, we don't want to do this. Anytime we want to check something before we do something, we have to call the if block. Our wonderful friend, the if block. What do we want to check? Well, we could add another variable that gets set whenever they click the save button, but we actually have something in place already that we can check, and that's that site selected variable. If you remember on the previous screen, we reset this to null whenever the screen starts. And so if this has a value, we know they have selected a state or selected a site, and this call will work. So what we can actually do is, well, let me show you how one way to do it. We could do if this is not equal to null. Let me show you. So you could say if not equal to null, then do this. That's the very explicit way to do this. But a shortcut that you can take is actually getting rid of this and putting it in here. If this has a value, the if block will return true. If it's null, it will return false. So this is a little shortcut you can use. And so yeah, this is the last thing that we'll update in this video. Let's just make sure it works. So we log in, we select a value, everything looks good. And then we can press add. And so you can see here, everything is blank. So our check is working. We didn't select a site. Everything was left blank. We didn't actually get anything from Firebase. So in this video, you've seen two examples of how you can pull and read and get data from Firebase. In the next video, I'm going to show you how you can update data that's already in Firebase, that's already in the real-time database, and how you can delete it. So I'm going to show you update and delete. So stick around for that one. And in this video, we've talked all about reading data from the real-time database. So I wanted to give you something else to read. I'm very happy about this. This is hot off the press. It's called my Idea to App Store Guide. So if you're in the middle of creating your app or you're just getting started, it's really good if you're just getting started because it's going from an idea to the App Store. What this guide does is it breaks down the process of taking your idea, transforming it into an app in Thunkable, and then showing you what you need to do to publish that app to the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store. It gives you really kind of a step-by-step process, and it's packed with links to great videos and articles. And yeah, it's called the Idea to App Store Guide. It's completely free. It's my gift to you for being a friend of this channel and being a friend of mine. So if you're interested in the Idea to App Store Guide, just follow the link that is in the description. Well, that's all for today. Happy coding.